There's only really three things that stop people from charging higher prices. Hey, Jay Williams here, and welcome to another Pocket Coaching. If you're someone who has a product or service that is highly valuable to people, makes a massive difference to them, and you know you could or should be charging more, then this is the episode for you. Recently, a friend of mine asked me to come and do some private workshops in his community of private clients. And this community of people was 4,000 digital marketing agency owners. And what he sold to them was white label products or solutions that they could then sell to their existing agency clients. And he decided to bring me in because they'd recently launched a new product offering. And there was a pricing structure to it that people had the potential to sell it at. And that pricing structure was, you can charge $20,000 for this particular product, and you can charge a reoccurring fee of $3,500. And what he shared with me when I asked him, well, what's the reason you believe people aren't selling it at that? He said, well, we've already had someone come in and deliver training specifically on the strategy to actually sell it and work on the skills on how to sell it. But they have belief systems, they have fears, they have doubts, they have imposter syndrome. And all of this is stopping them from charging what the product is worth. And so the three things that typically stop people from charging higher prices is, number one, your perceived value of the product or service. Think about this. Two people can see the exact same thing and both be willing to pay a drastically different price. This is what's called an auction. You may have heard about eBay before. Now, the mistake that people often make is they decide on pricing strategy based on their own perception of what it's actually worth. Now, what makes up that perception? That's what you've got to ask yourself. Well, a lot of people, when they're thinking about pricing, they go and look at their competitors' websites. They ask themselves, okay, what should I price? What do I think I should price it at? And the danger of that is your perspective is made up of what your competitors are up to. It's made up of your own experiences, good and bad. And ultimately, that's going to create a limited perspective. This is why we have limiting beliefs, which lead to us acting, behaving in a certain way, because we make certain assumptions. We don't know what the thinking was that went into that pricing strategy of our competitors. We don't know what their relationship is with themselves. We don't know how much they're actually selling or what their conversion rate is. So because we make these assumptions, there is often flawed thinking. And because of the flawed thinking, there's a flawed approach to pricing our product or services. So the important thing here is we charge for the result and what it's ultimately worth to the other person. The second thing that stops people charging high prices is their perception of the other person. I remember when I first got into sales calls, when I was selling my coaching services, I remember being on these calls and I would start to make assumptions about the other person based on what I saw, based on what I heard. And what ultimately happened was I would actually say it wasn't a good fit before I'd asked enough questions to discover where they might find the money from. I would make up this stuff in my head of why people couldn't afford it. Now, in the past, people have paid for my coaching services from all kinds of places, borrowing money from family. They've taken out it on a 0% credit card. They've pulled money from old pension pots. And so when we make assumptions about other people and how much money they have or what they can and can't do, that stops us from actually charging the price that we probably should. So the key here is to create a clean space for the prospect to share their reality and remove your belief system and all of your assumptions from that space. And by asking questions and uncovering more of their situation, their circumstance, and their reality, you can then allow the prospect to decide for themselves whether they can or cannot afford your product or service, because it's not your responsibility to say whether they can or can't afford it. Human beings will always surprise you and come up with lots of creative ways to ultimately get what they want. The third thing that stops people is the perception of self. In other words, your self-concept, how you see yourself. Now, what makes up your self-concept is a number of different things, but fundamentally, we have both emotions and we have belief systems. So it's our emotions, our belief systems that shape the decisions we make, which shape the actions we take, and then shapes the results that we ultimately get. So think about this. How am I going to respond if I believe that I'm not very good at sales and I couldn't possibly be skilled enough to sell someone at 20 grand? If I have a belief about myself that I'm only worthy of a certain amount of money, if I have fears that I'm going to lose the sale because I don't actually have other sales calls booked in, or I have a fear if I charge that high price, then they'll balk at it and not become a client. If I have beliefs or self-doubt that I'm able to deliver on that product or service, or I have imposter syndrome, I feel like a fake, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, all of that is going to lead to what you ultimately do next. Now, the challenge of self-concept is that charging for a specific product or service, especially if it's your own product or service, a lot of people base it on their own sense of worth. And pricing is often a self-worth game. So if you have a low sense of worth, you will ultimately charge lower prices. And that's because I'm sure there's been people in your life who've told you that you are only capable of a certain thing, or they've suppressed you in some way or put you down. And this all impacts on your self-worth and the confidence you feel about yourself and your ability to achieve a specific result. Because most people, when it comes to pricing, it's often a confidence game. That's the major challenge they face. And here's something to think about, and here's how it normally responds, to give you a powerful metaphor. Your upbringing, your life, your experiences, good and bad, have normally shaped your perspective of how you see yourself. And what that's really given you is, think about a thermostat. A thermostat set to a certain temperature. Your temperature has been set by all those experiences in life. And what typically happens is, if the temperature increases, then what's tends to happen is the aircon comes on. It's like, it's way too hot in here. Let's get back to something that's more comfortable, our set point. An example of this, I used to believe that based on my upbringing, I would only ever earn £40,000 a year. That was an incredible amount of money in my family. So anytime someone offered me a position that was 50 grand, or I had the potential to earn a lot of money in business, then my aircon would come on and I'd start going into meltdown, and I'd find a way to self-sabotage. Now, if I hadn't have changed that, I wouldn't have been able to charge over 30 grand for a set of one-to-one coaching, or I've sold products that are 40 grand a piece, right? And the reason I was able to do that is because I increased the temperature on my financial thermostat, and that became my new norm, because I have belief systems and I eliminated all the doubts and fears that had me believing that I wasn't worth that, if that makes sense. So I elevated my sense of worth, and then I was able to charge higher prices. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, Jay, are you in my head? This sounds just like me. Well, the good news is I have something very exciting coming over the next few days, which I'll be sharing with you. So keep an eye on your inbox. It's a very special deal where I'm looking for a few paid case studies of people who want to break through some of the challenges that I've been talking about in today's Pocket Coaching. Now, if you've heard this for the first time and you're new here, welcome. And you want to find out more about some of the previous episodes we've recorded, or if you just want to get updated about new ones right to your inbox, then go and visit jaywilliamscoaching.com/pocket, and you'll be able to enter your name and email address to sign up to get notified about those new episodes. You also get access to all of our past episodes. Finally, if you are somebody who's listened for the second time or the 20th time, welcome back. Thank you for your loyalty. Once again, I want to say a big thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Take care.